Welcome to the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction. Winnipeg Jets, St. Louis Blues, Game 3, final score, Blues 7, Jets 2. The Jets now lead the best-of-7 series, 2-1. Michael Remis here in the host chair. So pumped to be joined by Connor Hrabchak. We're going to go through all the details of the game, giving our reaction here on the WST postgame. Connor, how are you feeling here? It's a little after midnight at recording time, and Jets just lost 7-2 to the Blues in Game 3 to go down 2-1.
Yeah, feeling worse than I did after the first two games, that's for sure. Scott O'Neill said after the game that this game he felt, was won by the Blues and lost by the Jets in the first period, and it's hard to disagree with him on that. And just a bad performance up and down the lineup. I don't really know which Jets you can single out as having a good game in this one. And I think the best way to categorize this game, Remis, is game one, the first 10 minutes, the Blues came out and hit everything that moved. They went up 1-0. They looked like the better team, and the Jets looked nervous with the puck and couldn't break out of the zone. And we sat there and said, well, that's not sustainable. Well, they sustained it over a full 60 minutes, and that was this game 3. The Blues set a new franchise record in a playoff game for hits. They were forcing the Jets to turn the puck over all game long, and everything was beating Connor Hrabchak, who was screened, deflections, high danger chances. It was a bad performance up and down the lineup from the Jets for sure.
Yeah, having a lot of flashbacks to past playoff performances. We even got a highlight of Game 6 from 2019 during the game. We'll go through all that. But first, pregame, we did have some news lineup change coming in. Dylan DeMello was not out for warm-up. He didn't skate yesterday. Thought it was maintenance. He did take the morning skate, but he wasn't on ice. Scott O'Neill said they found out today at 4. He was not available, 4 p.m. And John Garrett mentioned he was sick, and Scott O'Neill confirmed that he was out due to illness. You wonder if that was going through the team or what. They will have a couple days to recover. The defense pairs change, with Pionk going up to the top pair with Morrissey, Samberg, and Schenn, and Stanley and Miller. And coming into the game, you thought, okay, they can weather this storm, but certainly possible. Dylan DeMello, much more important to the Winnipeg Jets than maybe you had thought coming in, and especially with his penalty killing ability would have been needed tonight. They certainly missed him in the lineup.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that did shock me about the absence of Dylan DeMello is that Scott O'Neill chose to change all of his pairings. So he didn't just keep Samberg and Pionk together and keep Stanley and Schenn together and then put Colin Miller with Josh Morrissey and then maybe manage minutes from that point forward. He put Pionk up with Josh Morrissey. He put Schenn with Samberg, and he put Miller with Stanley. Not to say that that's the reason the Jets lost or anything like that, but all three of those pairings struggled, like I said, up and down the lineup. Not many players in the Jets had a good game tonight, and it was really their defense that I thought struggled to move the puck out of the zone. The Blues forecheck was all over them, and these pairings, with whether it was Pionk or Schenn, had some rough moments in this game as well. They got obliterated by the Blues forecheck, and it was tough to recover. And Dylan DeMello makes so many subtle plays, so many quick and efficient passes out of the zone. And like you said, on the penalty kill there, they really could have used him in a game like this. Not to say it would have really changed anything, because the Blues looked amazing as well. But yeah, his presence was definitely missed.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the first period right now. But before we do, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor, KFC Canada, official partner of the Winnipeg Jets. And they're committed to providing Jets fans a delicious game day experience with exclusive finger-looking good promotions at Canada Life Center. On Jets game day, so the next one, Sunday, KFC Canada is giving away their Big Crunch chicken sandwich for just $4.95 at participating Winnipeg KFC locations to help Jets fans enjoy the game with a big hit. We did see Colonel Sanders at game 2 in full whiteout gear cheering on the Jets, and Kyle F. Connor. And it looks like KFC really loves KFC. And now Connor Hrabchak, we're going to get to the first period here. And I mean, Blues got on the board right away. Pavel Buchnevich gets the puck, right in front of the goal, tries to kick it. It looks like it's going in, but he bats it right out of the air. And under a minute in, St. Louis up 1-0. We talked before about how St. Louis came out extremely hard in game one. I thought they came at a really strong start in game two. And here they are in game three with the same thing. And this time they're up 1-0 right away.
Yeah, and Pavel Buchnevich, this was his first of 3 goals on the night, and he was maybe a player, after games 1 and 2, Remis, we talked a lot about Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, but Pavel Buchnevich is on their top line. He's a bona fide top line winger, and you really didn't notice him in the first 2 games. He was easily the best Blues player on this night with the hat trick. I thought initially that this was a kick and this was immediately going to get challenged and waved off and reviewed, but the replay showed that he got his stick on it right before it crossed the goal line. A really high skilled play from Buchnevich to be able to kick that puck up to his stick and then roof it. And yeah, as you see there, Kyle Connor just one step behind. And I think that was the theme there all period long and all 3 goals, where the Jets were just one step behind from making the defensive play to break it up. And Pavel Buchnevich led the charge for the Blues, not only in the first period, but all game long.
Yeah, it's Pavel Buchnevich with the hat trick and that one. And so St. Louis, they're up 1-0. And, right away they're on the power play. And, Luke Shen gets beat. He's swinging his stick around and he trips Rob Thomas. So St. Louis is coming out very hard at this point of the game. And Rob Thomas, who has the puck on the left side, he almost tried to score the same goal he scored in game 1, but he missed the net. But he got the puck back, danced around a little around the dot, throws in a slot, and Buchnevich tips it in. And very quickly the Blues are up 2-0, 3 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and this was the power play, like you said. And coming into this game, St. Louis had only scored 1 even strength goal. Obviously, they scored 7 goals total in this night, but this one was on the power play. And just like Kyle Connor being one step behind on Buchnevich on the first goal, Dylan Sandberg was one stick length away from getting his stick on Buchnevich's stick and, not letting him deflect this puck past Connor Hrabchak. But just a nightmare start for the Jets. They were down 2-0. The shots on goal, I believe, were 7-0. The Blues were hitting everything that moved. And it looked like the Jets were in for a long night and just desperate to get to that first TV timeout as the Blues power play struck again. And yeah, here's the NHL visualization here as Robert Thomas from the left circle just hits Buchnevich for a nice redirection, and it's 2-0.
Yeah, and they were desperate for that TV timeout. The shots that you mentioned, not great. It was 7-0. They get their first shot 6 minutes in the game. I'm looking on my notes. This is a total ass kicking. And, just flashbacks a little to Colorado last year, where coming to the series, you thought, okay, if the Jets can play their game, play their structure, which they did in games 1 and 2, they can be competitive. But this was not even close to competitive. Halfway through the period, the shots 10-3, the Jets with 0 high danger chances, and the Blues were racking up the hit counter. They finished with 63. Apparently the Jets have 68 hits. I don't know what's going on with the hit counter, but I did have at this point of the game, halfway through, 16-3 Blues. We had some after the whistle scrums, and they started calling some coincidental penalties there, some 4-on-4, and later on in the period, the Blues are breaking out. Buchnevich is in the neutral zone, tips it to Thomas, who's at the boards, and Cam Fowler's just streaking all the way down the ice and buries one past Hrabchak in the top corner, and 3-0 Blues. And it's 5 minutes left in the first, or 4 minutes left in the first at this point.
Yeah, and a 2-goal disadvantage if you're the Jets feels like easily they could come back in that game. Even 3 goals, from what we've seen from the Winnipeg Jets this year, this game was not over at this point. But given what you've seen up until this point, it really felt like this was the dagger. Just a brutal start. The Blues were all over the Jets. Cam Fowler's season opening here, and he's one step ahead of Alex Iafallo. I brought it up right off the first goal that the theme of this period was the Jets being one step behind. You'll see the dot with number 9 on it, and the dot was 17. They're right in stride and then Cam Fowler just takes one stride ahead of Alex Iafallo. Iafallo is one stride behind, and he beats the entire Jets defense core to the net and roofs it on Connor Hrabchak. So that was the theme of the first period, whether it was breakouts, whether it was their forecheck, offensive chances, neutral zone defense, whatever it was, the Winnipeg Jets were one step behind, and the Blues played their best period of the series for sure.
Yeah, 3-0. You're looking at the shot attempts at this point with, I wrote it down, we're at the end of the first period, 35-13. The Blues just skated all over the Winnipeg Jets, and the Jets really had no answer. Natural stat trick at the high danger chances at 5-0 for the Blues. The Jets did have, one decent opportunity. Mark Scheifele rushed it down the ring, had a backhand pass to Kyle Connor, and he got a shot off. But there was nothing from the Jets in terms of scoring chances throughout the period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And that's what's going to happen when you're spending the majority of the period in your own end. And to relieve any pressure that was on them, they were just chipping the puck out of the zone. And nothing against that strategy. That's what they had to do because they were under siege for the entirety of the period. But this was one of the lone breaks of the period where Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor had a bit of a 2-on-1, maybe a 2-on-1.5. And Kyle Connor has been great in this series so far. Again, tough night for everyone wearing a Winnipeg Jets uniform tonight, but this was their best chance of the period. And the Jets definitely got better from this point forward. Maybe the third period, things unraveled and you can't really take anything from that period. But going into the second period, it was a little bit better from the Jets, and it was a low bar to clear, to be fair.
Yeah, going into the second period, we're wondering, okay, can the Blues keep up this pace? Because in game one, well, in game two also, the Jets had their best period in the third period. And can the Jets wake up and, as you said, clear the low bar of the first period? Thought they came out, looked okay, but Luke Schenn had a rough night. His second penalty, I know he's playing defense. His stick is there, and Sundqvist steps on it, skating into the zone, and Schenn's in the box. They do end up, they do call another penalty later. Rob Thomas got called for hooking, which seemed like a bizarre call. And I thought there was a play like a couple minutes before that where Scheifele got hooked and they didn't call it. I don't know if they're doing makeup calls. Some of the penalty calls are weird. If you look at, I'm not going to go too deep because the Jets, did play awful. We can talk about that more. But the number of times in the series so far where a Jets player or even a Blues player gets called for a penalty and their reaction is like they can't believe that they got one.
Yeah.
Was you could make a nice image gallery of that. And they did have, a 4-on-4 opportunity here. And I don't think nothing amounted from that. And then here was, I don't think it ended up mattering in the end, but the Jets did go to get on a power play. Mason Appleton hooked behind the net. And the power play hadn't really been going all series. And you thought, okay, here's a chance where you're down 3-0, you can get a goal. And Kyle Connor has the puck down low to Cole Perfetti, and a really nice play. Cole Perfetti shoots it. Perfetti thinks it's in, but it's in Binnington's glove. And we can debate this forever. Not what was your reaction when they called it no goal and then went to review?
Yeah, immediately on the ice, it totally makes sense that they ruled this no goal because the crowd went nuts. Binnington made a save. Yes, Cole Perfetti's pointing and it's close, but in a bang-bang play like that, you're going to call it no goal the majority of the time in the moment. And then as the review went on, there were certain angles that maybe pieced together could make a conclusive argument. I think we can all agree. I think Blues fans potentially watching this could agree as well. I think this puck was in. Where the disconnect is, and Elliot Friedman talked about this on the intermission panel, is was there a conclusive video replay? Now, personally, I think the shot from inside the net where you can see the puck in Binnington's glove, which is like on top of his pad, which is clearly in the net, is a conclusive angle, but the NHL doesn't deem that conclusive. And again, that is an angle from like behind the glove, and it's not straight down. The straight down angle, you can't really see where the puck is. So totally makes sense that they couldn't find a conclusive angle. I know me and many Jets fans on social media thought that angle from inside the net was conclusive. But it made sense as the review went on for like 6 minutes that they were just going to go whatever the call was on the ice, and that's what they did, and it was no goal.
Yeah, I thought it was probably in, but I think the evidence that they're looking for, it doesn't exist, so they can't overturn
Yeah.
because they called it on ice. And you want to be like, well, make the common sense decision here. But I think if you say, hey, we need hard evidence, it's a good, and you can use that instead of having some kind of gray area like, oh, we think it was in. I do think it was probably in. You can't see it on the camera because it's in the glove. Definitely a disappointing situation for the Jets because that goal would have made it 3-1, would have given them some life. I think you can debate this for a long time. The full explanation was from the NHL. The Situation Room initiated a video review to further examine whether Cole Perfetti's shot entered the net. After review, there was no conclusive video evidence to overturn the call on the ice. Therefore, the original call on the ice is upheld. And Perfetti, after the game, said he thought it was in. He saw it in. He saw the same replays we all saw. Scott Arniel said, they need conclusive evidence, so they can't overturn it. And we can debate, video review and its place in sports for a long time, but that's what it is. And we'll move on. Jets took another penalty. Anderson Dolan. I thought this was a nice defensive play. I think it was Texier with a rush chance. Kyrou made a spin move and drew the penalties. Anderson Dolan, who was a factor later on. The Blues had a power play, and the Blues power play had been looking pretty good here. They ended up killing it off, and some more stuff. Colin Miller and Bolduc was going at it, and I don't know about you, but Bolduc seems like a guy, whenever he takes any contact, he gets really pissy. And Colin Miller goes at him, and Bolduc slashes and takes another dumb penalty, and it goes in the box, and the Jets get another power play here. You think, okay, well, they scored before. Can they do it again? Nothing really doing there, and the period ends, and the Jets are still down 3-0.
Yeah, I thought this second period was the Jets' best of the three, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like the first and third were so bad that this was by default the best because there were no goals that happened. But also, I thought this is the period where they controlled the majority of the flow of the play. I think they outshot the Blues in this period. They had the majority of the shot attempts. I think the scoring chances and high danger chances were relatively even in the period as well. And for a game that ended up 7-2 and the first and third periods played out the way that they did, definitely the best period of the game for the Jets. And you could say, like, if that Cole Perfetti goal counts and they do have a conclusive video for it, maybe this is a different game because the Jets had been playing their best hockey of the night at that point. And there's a lot more time left to overcome a 2-goal deficit. But obviously, in the end, it didn't end up mattering because the third period, the Blues came out with a ton of fire. The game unraveled or unraveled after the Jets got their first goal of the game. And we can dive into that now.
Yeah, the shots were 7-6 that period for the Jets. High danger scoring chances, 3-1 Jets. And that's on natural stat trick. And the hits after 2. I mean, the broadcast kept saying how many hits the Blues had, how it's such a record, but the Jets apparently had more. They apparently had 68 for the game, with 63. Those seem like video game numbers.
Yeah.
And the hits after 2 were 49, 41 for the Blues. I actually thought the Jets came out hard in the third period. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele had a nice shift to start. And then here's the goal. Jared Anderson Dolan takes it wide down the wing, and both Blues defensemen converge on him, leaving the Gus Bus, David Gustafsson, wide open, and he wired it top corner. And, I thought, no one's having a good game. You're missing DeMello, you're missing Velarde, you're missing Ehlers. The top line hasn't scored. They needed someone other than the top line to score a goal to, if they had any hope of making a comeback. And the fourth line, which already has a goal, Jared Anderson Dolan had one earlier in the series, comes through. They've had very limited minutes, and I think they've looked pretty good for the whole series, and they get rewarded here with a very nice goal.
Yeah, this was a really nice play from Jared Anderson Dolan to draw the two Blues defenders to him. And then David Gustafsson is left wide open in the slot. Easily the best Jets scoring chance of the night. He's left wide open in the slot. David Gustafsson or Kyle Connor, this is a prime scoring chance. And this is maybe Jared Anderson-Dolan using the Blues over aggressiveness to the Jets' advantage. The Blues came out, looked like a team that was one step ahead the whole game, was hitting everything, was breaking up every single pass and opportunity that the Jets potentially had. But this one was a breakthrough. Jared Anderson-Dolan drawing the two defenders to him and sliding the puck to Gustafsson. And the Jets had life. I think there was 15:30 left in the third when this goal went in. 2-goal deficit with 15 and a half minutes left. Much crazier things have happened. And any momentum that the Jets had got zapped pretty quickly with the Blues' fourth goal.
Yeah, and I agree. I thought, okay, the Jets, they've come out well. They scored, a goal in the second period. It didn't count, but they were looking a lot better than they did in the first period. And it was a competitive game. And yeah, the game kind of ended here. Any hopes of a comeback were certainly very, very deflated. Connor Hrabchak behind the net with the puck, just taking a bit too long to make a decision here. Rob Thomas on the forecheck bumps it out to Buchnevich and puts it in. And adding insult to injury was the hats coming down for the hat trick after a mistake like that. And that was really the dagger. They had come, they were 1 goal away from being 1 goal away. And, they got a gift. And then it was just, and I thought Connor Hrabchak, his puck handling, we talked about it all year, how it's been great. But this playoffs, there's been way too many close calls in games 1 and 2. And, a little indecisive there, and it bit them.
Yeah, and I think this third period highlighted the difference between these two goaltenders and their ability to play the puck. Like going into the series, we talked a lot about how Jordan Binnington is incredibly effective with playing the puck. And the Jets, this whole second period into the third where they were actually playing decently, they were getting pucks into the zone and Binnington was firing a crisp pass to the defenseman standing on the wall and they would break out super quickly. Connor Hrabchak has time, maybe not to make a crisp pass to a defender here, but to chip it past the two Blues players that are in on him. I believe it's Robert Thomas that gets the poke. Pavel Buchnevich is right there. And I agree with you. This was the dagger, especially the fact that the Jets had to sit through the 4 minutes of them cleaning up all the hats. This was definitely the emotional dagger for sure, because you get this goal. There's 15 minutes left. You're 1 goal away from being 1 goal away, like you said. And then you got to sit there for 5 minutes as the crowd in St. Louis goes wild for a Pavel Buchnevich hat trick. So this was the dagger. Connor Hrabchak has been better at playing the puck this year, but this is unacceptable at this point of the game. Had time to make a play and didn't.
Yeah, very deflating, as you mentioned. Even more degrading having to watch the hats on the ice. As far as hat tricks against the Jets, Lars Eller scored one in like first year or something on a spin move over, I think it was Chris Mason on a penalty shot. That was pretty bad. I'm going far back here.
Yeah,
this one may have been one of the more degrading hat tricks to watch. And then I do want to mention, Connor Hrabchak misplaying the puck leading to a goal in the playoffs felt like a very familiar feeling to me. And I looked it up and I was right. Game 2 last year against Colorado, similar thing, puck behind the net and a tie game and giveaway, and Colorado scored. And someone also mentioned to me, and Game 3 of the Western Conference Final against Vegas in a 1-1 tie game in the second period as well. So, Hrabchak in the regular season, very strong handling the puck. He's had a couple misplays in the playoffs that have certainly cost them. And in tight series like this, you can't be giving away goals. And there's something, you're going to have to get tightened up moving forward.
And that one against Vegas, I remember came, I want to say 10, 15 seconds after the Jets had tied the game. Yeah. That one was very deflating. It was a 1-1 game. We know how well Marc-Andre Fleury played in that series. We don't need to dive deep into it. But the Jets finally broke him. They tied the game. And then just like that, puck gets deep, turnover, and all the good work that the Jets did was wiped away. And kind of a similar feeling on this one, where the Jets were playing well in the second. They came out in the third and looked great. Got within 2 goals, maybe had some life, and were doing great work at the time, and it was all for nothing as Pavel Buchnevich made it 4-1.
Yeah, and this game really opening up a lot of old playoff wounds, whether it's flashbacks to the way they played last year or, uh, you know, 2018 or even 2019, the last time these two teams played in St. Louis in Game 6 because Sportsnet had to come up and show those highlights in the final game of that series. Well, the game goes on. I actually thought there's a play where David Gustafson had a chance and got tripped, and
Mhm.
there was no penalty, and John Garrett even mentioned it on TV, but there were some penalties called after that. It was Colin Miller and Bull Duke going to the box. Then Logan Stanley got an extra, and he's laughing, like, can't figure out why he's in the box. Um, and then what? Jake Neighbors and Neil Pionk get tangled up. Neil Pionk falls on him. He's in the box. You have three defensemen in the box at this point
Yeah.
for a 5-on-3. And so it's Sandberg, Shanout, and Jordan Kyrou gets the puck in the slot and rips it past Hellebuck. And, the big screen with Braden Shen in front. It was Morgan Barron who went for a hit and didn't get the puck out. So it was 4-on-2 in the slot. And if you didn't think this game was over before, it is very over at this point.
Yeah, and look, it's a 4-on-2, like you said. 5-on-3, Morgan Barron takes out a player in the corner, so it's really a 4-on-2. Jordan Kyrou is an incredible player. We've talked about it in the first two games. You give him this much time and space with that number 10 dot, Braden Shen standing right in front of Connor Hellebuck. That's like a tap in. Like that is such a sure goal in that moment. And there's really not much Connor Hellebuck could do in that scenario. And the Jets penalty kill, which has struggled in this series, and the Blues power play continues to click along. But a 5-on-3, a little bit of a different scenario, especially at this point of the game where the Jets clearly deflated, clearly frustrated with how the game has gone, taking a lot of dumb penalties at this time of the game, and that continued after this goal as well.
Yeah, at this point, I was like, well, should I continue to take notes here? And I kept going. Luke Shen, very rough game in terms of penalties and, just too casual, trying to get the puck out. Radek Faksa comes in hard, like the Blues came in all game, strips the puck, Neighbors to Toropchenko and tips it in. And at this point, Hellebuck's night is over and bringing in Eric Comrie. And if,
Yeah.
if you want to go on,
Well, Arneal talked about it after the game. There was really, really nothing to this. People will want to read into it, but just save them for the next game. There's
yeah. Well, you're wondering if you could have done it at the goal before, but at this point, it's like, okay, now do it. And then the penalties started coming. Nemestikov got a misconduct. The Jets did get on the board on a power play. Neil Pionk with a nice slapper on a one-timer through a Niederreiter screen. And then, just more penalties. And Golden Parayko made it 7-2 on a power play goal. And Luke Shen got a misconduct for cross-checking Jimmy Snuggerud. Like, sure, if you're going to go after someone, go after the guy, the rookie who just left college to play playoff hockey. I don't know, Jets trying to do anything at the end that you can after the whistle. Just a really tough performance all around in a 7-2 loss.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the group bounces back from this. All year long in the regular season, they've been a great team after a loss. They've been a great road team. Sunday at noon is game 4. What tweaks do the Jets make, if any, to their lineup, to their defense core? Do they get Dylan DeMello back, who missed this game due to illness? Do they maybe get Gabriel Velarde, who hasn't skated yet in a full contact uniform? The penalties and the goals at the end here just delayed the inevitable. The Jets were losing this game. They lost this game. The second it was 3-0 in the first. The second it was 4-1 in the third there, and it was on to game 4 where the Jets will need to be a lot better than they were tonight for sure.
Yeah, slow starts, I think, has been the theme for the Jets this series. They were asked about that after the game. Scott Arneal said he didn't think they had a slow start in game 2. They did give up some big chances. Hellebuck had to be sharp. Game 1, for sure. And tonight, the game was, I don't want to say it was over right away. I mean, Scott Arneal said the game was over when it was 2-0. I think that's him looking back rather than saying, hey, we gave up on the bench there. And some will point to the Jets' 2018 series against Minnesota, Game 3 in Minnesota after the Jets had the 2-0 lead. They did lose 6-2 and bounce back to shut out Minnesota in 2 straight games. Will they have a similar bounce back? We'll be also looking at, as you mentioned, DeMello. Seems like he'll be okay. Will anyone else catch whatever he had? And Gabriel Velarde, he skated a bunch in a non-contact. They have 2 days in between games, and the game's Sunday at noon. We'll look to see on Friday's skate, if they are skating, if he takes off the yellow jersey, and maybe he could be an option, and what a boost he would be, especially to the power play, but in terms of, just all around as well, having a player with his skill in the lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And offensive firepower, too. At times of the game, it would be nice to have a bit of a counterattack to the Blues being super aggressive and chipping and chasing and getting in on the forecheck. Every time the Jets were able to break out of the zone, it would result in maybe a perimeter shot and a one and done, and the Blues would break it out, and that would be it. So to have Gabriel Velarde working along the walls, have some sustained offensive zone time with a Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor maybe on the top line, and the Jets will need to be a lot better in a lot of areas, but chance generation, I feel like, is the area that Gabriel Velarde would help the most when he comes back, and especially that power play. You mentioned it. That's probably the number one area, actually. A unit that has struggled here in the first round, and Velarde would be a big boost.
Yeah, I think we can point to some games earlier this season where the Jets had a rough one. Utah, where they really bad performance and rattled off a massive win streak. So they have bounced back this year. Will they be able to put this one behind them and have a good start on Sunday afternoon in St. Louis? And I think we talk longer about this one than we did the game was 1 and 2. A lot to get to here. I think we've said it all at this point, Connor, and we're going to put this one behind us. Say, hey, everyone needs to be better and put this one away and see how they respond on Sunday. Any more last words before we wrap this up here?
Yeah, I think Jets fans should have faith in this group bouncing back. I mean, Dylan DeMello is out tonight, Gabriel Velarde, Nikolai Ehlers, but that's no excuse. This group has played well in the first 2 games, played well enough to have a 2-0 series lead, and the Jets are in a better spot than the other 1 seed, the Vegas Golden Knights, who lost to the Minnesota Wild tonight. They're down 2-1 in their series on the road. So yeah, flush this one. Brutal performance from start to finish, but I have faith, and I think a lot of Jets fans too should as well have faith in this group bouncing back.
So we'll be, we got Winnipeg Sports Talk daily on Friday at 1 p.m. Hustler. We'll be joined by Ken Wiebe, who's at the game and in St. Louis for more reaction. And then you've got Sunday Live at 9 a.m., a little pregame Sunday Live. And you and I at some point on Sunday we'll be recapping Game 4. So, Connor, thank you so much for coming on with me. This has been the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction. Bye-bye.